we finish all these series that doesn't know the story and doesn't pronounce it right. And also, Sarah Soley, where are you? Thank you so much for taking all the reservations, getting everybody here for a full house to hear Maureen and her story. I also want to thank each and every one of you for finding your way down here through all the, I would say, blockades, down, or the street blocks downtown. It's much easier to get to the Mall of America. Right? Anyway, someday downtown will be all cleared up. I know that I say this every time we start one of these, that many of us know people that we've known all our lives, but we really don't know very much about them. If somebody asked you about your very best friend, where they went to school, where they lived, what they did before they were doing what they're doing now, how many of you could really answer that? Even the people you work with, that you see every day now in your lives, do you really know that much about them? And that's why we started these Women of Influence luncheons about 10 years ago. We started at Goodfellas and they closed, so we had to go someplace else. And then we went to Bellinote for a few years. And then Jonathan and Judy kept asking us, come over here, we got a great place. And it really is a fabulous place. And so now, with Minnesota Monthly and WCCO Radio, where I think this is, our 4th or 5th year that we've been doing this, and each time it just gets more exciting, and we learn more about the women who have influenced not only the people in our city, but influenced the people around them. And today you're going to learn about, many of you work with Maureen, because I know a lot of her cohorts are here. And thank you, Jeff Hope, for the wonderful gift bags, by the way, in case we forget right there. Where are you?
It's that table.
It's that table. Thank all of you at Mall of America for the fabulous gift bags. Maureen will tell us a little bit more about when we get to that. Anyway, I've known Maureen for 19 years, and I really felt I knew her until I started reading her bio and hearing all the background about her and all the things that she did. We found out this week we were both teachers. Never knew that before. And so a lot of the times you'll see somebody and you've got a lot of things that have happened in your lives that sort of interacted, and you may have even worked at the same place and never known it. But Maureen Bausch has a wonderful history, and I bet when you were little, Maureen, you never dreamt that you'd be running one of the biggest malls in the whole world. I don't think they do. You aren't that old. Anyway, she now her title is Executive Vice President of Business Development for the past 9 years at the Mall of America. When I met her 19 years ago, the Mall of America was a hole in the ground, and she has been there since the very, very beginning. Her first job was public relations. And let's go back before you got into the public relations, because even back to, let's start where you grew up and all those things that people may not know about you.
Well, I grew up in Stillwater, Minnesota, and it was a lovely place in the 60s and 70s to grow up. It was kind of like a Norman Rockwell village, so it was really an ideal childhood. In fact, my cousins and sisters and aunts are here, and it was a lovely childhood. And
can you all hear her okay?
Is my microphone, can you hear me okay?
Put it up a little higher. She speaks softly. That I do know you about.
And I'm the oldest of 6 children. And my mother had 4 girls. And my mother always said, you can choose. You can be a nurse, a teacher, a housewife, or a nun. So I was the oldest, so I picked the teacher. It's a very, progressive family. So I was a teacher. I was a 4th grade teacher. And I went to Mesa, Arizona to teach 4th grade for my first job. And then after a year or so, I came back here and I was a substitute. And that wasn't making the rent. And so my dad said, you have to come to work for me, which was really not good. And, after you go to college and you're a teacher, and then all of a sudden you're your dad's secretary. And not really in the plan. So I went to work at Cub, and my cousin, John Cooley, who happens to be Colleen's husband, came in one day and he said, didn't you have an art minor? And I said, sure. And he said, well, why don't you do advertising? And I thought, oh, that's better than being a secretary for my dad. So I was there 13 years. I went back to get a master's degree in marketing and journalism. And then I met a woman who was a marketing consultant for Mall of America, which no one really knew what Mall of America was at the time. But I really wanted to get out of the food business and try something else. And so she took a chance on me 19 years ago, and I went to the mall. So that's kind of the history.
And that was 19 years ago starting. It shows you never know where you're going to end up. She did the marketing, and now the mall is marketing her. But she really has done amazing things at the Mall of America. And I think that, I assume that maybe many of you would love to know some of the things that happen out there, because it is an amazing place. As I said, when I first met Maureen, she was doing PR, and I was working for WCCO Radio, and we thought, how could we make the city aware of what's going out there, but also how could we make the women and the men that were moving here from out of town aware of our city, so that once they opened their stores, they wouldn't leave. And so we did this wonderful tour of the Twin Cities. In fact, I learned a lot about the Twin Cities that I never knew just from the tour, and so did you. We took a bus ride, we went all over the Twin Cities, learned about the crime in St. Paul and all the gangsters that used to live there, which we all don't talk about too much, but that's what the leader told us. And then we went to Symphony Hall, and we had one of the Summerfest. It was outside. It was wonderful. Well, then Maureen was there, and she became like the mother to all of these women that moved this head of the stores at Bloomingdale's, and well, it wasn't, I think there was one of the Nordstrom's sons was the head of the store. Eric Nordstrom was here then. And he has since left, but many of them are still here that were opening some of the stores. So how did you move up in all the different jobs? Because you started with marketing, and then you went to...
Then I started in public relations, and the day the mall opened, I became the marketing director. And that was because the woman that hired me was a consultant, and she was leaving. And that was kind of always in the plan. And then I became associate general manager, and then general manager, and then vice president of business development, and then executive vice president. So I kind of just stayed there and went up the rank. And I had a very good boss for a number of years. He's since left and gone to manage the global market in Minneapolis, but John Wheeler, and he was a fabulous mentor. And there, there's so many of you in the room that are part of the mall, or have worked at companies that are part of the mall, like Heidi, who have helped us. It's just amazing. So it's really because of a lot of the efforts of the people in this room that building is successful. Really, and Sue particularly.
And it's still expanding.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that in a minute. As you moved on up the ladder, though, what were some of the most favorite jobs that you had, or some of the fun experiences that we might enjoy hearing about?
Well, I'm not very good with details, as some people here can talk about.
Some of your cohorts.
Some other people at these tables can tell you I'm not really good with details. But the most fun part about that job is you can absolutely think of any idea and try it. And I think we have, whether it's a certain kind of event, whether it's approaching a retailer or a hotel or a medical center, nothing is off limits. And every single day something different happens in that building. And 99.9% of it is positive. We did, yesterday morning, there were 15 couples that were married on the roller coaster in honor of the 15th anniversary of the wedding chapel. So I mean, it's wild ideas that made CNN, it made all the other national news, and those kind of things are really fun. Anything is possible in that building, and that's what I like most about it.
What about all the celebrities? You told me an incredible number of celebrities that have been there in the 17 years it's been open.
It's been 900 celebrities have come to that building. In fact, I have the list because I couldn't remember. And Sue told me she was going to ask about it. But we've had, and that's the other thing is if there was somebody we really wanted to meet, any of us who worked at the mall, we'd just call them, call their agent and figure it out. And they'd come, and we don't pay these people. They come to the exposure of the visits and the traffic and so on. And again, almost all of them are great. Occasionally there's a little high maintenance and a celebrity, but
can we hear some of those stories?
Well,
that's the juice, right?
Yeah.